Hi. Drum machines and sequencers typically have a small number of built-in factory patterns. So if you want a pattern in a certain style, you've got to program it in yourself, not to mention if you want a progression from intro to verse to bridge and to fill in a chorus, you've got to program in the individual sections yourself. Now, there are hundreds and thousands of MIDI loops out there for every part of a song in every imaginable style, many played with a groove and feel by real drummers, and it would be nice if you could just import them in, but there are two problems with that. Problem number one is that neither of these machines, nor virtually any other drum machine or sequencer out there, supports directly importing MIDI clips, and problem number two is that there are so many MIDI drum loops out there that searching through them can be quite a daunting task. In this video, I'll show you a little trick or cheat that can help solve both these problems. I'll be showing this on the Digitakt and Drum Brute Impact, but it should work just fine on many other machines as well. The first part of this trick is actually really quite easy. The idea is to play a MIDI file from a computer to the drum machine while the drum machine is set to record the incoming notes, which most drum machines and sequencers support. The challenge is setting up things so that the notes in the MIDI loop you're using trigger the right notes in your drum machine. So the first thing you need is to get your hands on some MIDI loops. I'll be using a few commercial libraries to make things a little bit easier, but if you Google free MIDI drum loops, you'll get more than enough to get you started. This is an example of one such free library. Once you load it up, you can see there are quite a few loops in here, and you find the MIDI clip you want, simply drag and drop it into your DAW, and it's going to appear in here. Now, I'm using Ableton, but you can use any timeline-based DAW for this as well. The only potential challenge using standalone MIDI loops is that they probably won't map properly onto the kit you're using in your DAW, certainly not to the drum machine, but that's part of what we're going to fix in this video. To ease us into this, I'll be using Studio Drummer from Native Instruments as well as Easy Drummer from TuneTrack, but you can, like I said, implement this on the standard kit in your DAW as well. The advantage here is that I know that any loop that I try out will match the kit that I have loaded up. Now there are, of course, thousands of loops in here to choose from. I'll show you a way to search them easily later on, but let's say you found the groove or loop that you like. In the case of Studio Drummer, you just take it, drag it, and drop it onto anywhere you want in your DAW or in your timeline, and now you've got it in here. Now the first step that you need to do is find out which notes your loop is using. Now typically you'll see a piano roll like this, which you need to scroll through, but as you saw, I clicked on Fold in Live, and that just shows me the active notes in this particular MIDI loop. And if you turn on the headphones here, you can also sample and check out exactly which note represents which element of the kit. So now that I know in this particular MIDI file that C1 is my kick, and these two are my snares, and my hats, and a cymbal. But if I play this MIDI file directly into the Drum Brute or the Digitakt or any other drum machine, it won't sound like what you're hearing here. Obviously not just because the sounds in these machines may be different, but because the notes aren't mapped to the different elements of the kit. Let me show you what I mean. If I go into the clip that is now connected to the Drum Brute, I need to make sure that every one of these notes triggers the right sound on the Drum Brute. Now I could go ahead and dive into the piano roll and move the notes around so they trigger the right tracks on the Drum Brute or Digitakt, but that would take a long time, and it also wouldn't apply to any future loops I want to import from this MIDI loop library. A better way to solve this problem is to reroute each and every one of these notes to the right note on your drum machine. Now I'll show you how to set up a translator in Ableton Live. If you use another DAW and know how to create a translator that will map a MIDI note from a source clip into a destination note on your drum machine, please leave a comment below. If your DAW doesn't support this functionality, you can always use an external tool like Bohm's MIDI Translator Pro that works outside your DAW. In Ableton Live, you can easily set up a MIDI translator using a MIDI effect rack, where each note in your MIDI loop is assigned a different pitch transposition to match your drum machine. So for example, in the Drum Brute Impact, I don't need to transpose the kick because in the MIDI loop it's at C1, and C1 is also the kick on the Drum Brute Impact. However, the snares and hi-hats in this MIDI loop all need to be transposed to play the right notes on the Drum Brute. So while I'm not transposing the kick, and you can see here 0 pitch change on C1. As I go down this list, some of the notes are transposed by -1. With others, I may be lucky. This one, it's -5, for example. By the way, on the Drum Brute, you've got more sounds than these 8 pads imply. You've got 2 toms, and the cymbal and cowbell. And then there's another layer of notes that sends out colored sounds for each of the pads. Now, once I've gone ahead and done this process once, it'll apply to any MIDI loop in the library. And then all I need to do is just hit play on the DAW and record on the drum root impact. Let's see this in action. I'll pick an empty pattern. Right, so let's erase this guy. There's nothing in this pattern right now, right? It's completely empty. And now I'll get this pattern going on my DAW. Notice it's playing these notes as we speak. And then I'll just hit record in time. Right? And then go ahead and stop the clip on the DAW. And now if I hit play here, right, I've transferred the MIDI loop onto my drum machine. Now, as you may have noticed, I had to click record and play at exactly the right time for the loop to fit in nicely into the drum machine. I could have slowed down the tempo both in Ableton and on the drum root to, say, 60 BPM to make that easier on myself. And you could theoretically sync the drum root's clock to Ableton's MIDI. I've not found that to sync up as well as just hitting record at the same time. This sort of traveling tempo from Ableton to the drum machine applies to both of these. But if Ableton syncs well with your drum machine, then you don't need to get the timing right. Just sync the clock from Ableton into your drum machine. Now, while we're on the topic of the digitakt, let's check out how it works on this. It actually works exactly the same way, only the transpositions are different for the digitakt. I'll go into my digitakt or digitakt, depending on where you're from, track over here, right? So this is the beat, and you can see I've mapped each of these properly already, so they're triggering as they should over here. But if you take a look at the transpositions, they're quite different. I had to transpose the kick 36 semitones down, and you can check out the rest of the mappings here. The reason you have to transpose these so many semitones down is because that's the way you can control all 8 tracks on the digitakt with one MIDI channel. If you send the digitakt higher notes, it will just transpose the one sound in the track you're sending up and down based on the MIDI notes you're sending. Anyway, once I've got the mapping set up, same deal. I've got an empty pattern here, and then all I need to do is hit play on live, and then time recording, right? And hit play here. I recorded 2 bars here, but you can see works quite nicely. Now, if your drum machine can record both quantized and unquantized loops, as both of these can, you want to set it to quantized if there isn't a natural groove to your loop to make things easier on editing later on and recording in real time. But if you want to maintain the groove, just make sure that you're recording in unquantized mode. Now, like I said before, the nice thing about matching and mapping MIDI notes this way is that if you set it up right once, it should work nicely for all the thousands or hundreds of thousands of other MIDI loops in the same library. But that brings up another problem, which is, well, nobody wants to really go through hundreds of thousands of patterns to find the right one. Now, luckily, most MIDI loop libraries are categorized, right? Like I showed you here in the free one or in this paid one from Native Instruments, right? So there is a nice categorization, but there actually is a better way if going through loops one by one isn't the way you want to spend your day. There's a pretty neat piece of software called Easy Drummer or Superior Drummer, which is sort of like the pro version of it from a company called TuneTrack that lets you search through their MIDI loop database just by playing a beat. So let me bring that up. The drums in this library, by the way, sound really nice as well. And I've gone ahead and mapped the pads on the drum root to play the right sounds in this kit using the same exact technique that I showed you before, but the other way around. So now I'm taking the MIDI notes that the drum roots send and translating them to the right notes for the Easy Drummer kit. Now, this software has a database of over 100,000 loops you can look through. Luckily, it has this tap to find feature, which makes it really easy to find something that aligns with a groove you're looking for. So I'll go into here and just clear this, and then say tap in something like right, so something like that, and then I hit show results, and let's see what it came up with. There's a match percentage over here. Let's just hit play on this. Right. So pretty close to what I tapped into it. Now, these results are out of the loops that come with the basic version of EZdrummer, but if you hit Show Web Shop MIDI over here, it'll look through all 100,000 loops in their database. And you can see much better matches over here. Let's try and play this. Right? A pretty nice match to what I played, but obviously enriched with a lot more content around this. And if you sort this by family, you'll see other loops in that particular family that you can listen to, which are variations on the original match that it found. Now, unfortunately, anything in the web shop is something that you can't just drag and drop into your project. It won't work unless you buy this. So you can either try and sort of recreate that beat from what it found, or obviously purchase this loop. And then as you can see, you can bring in entire song sections, the intro, bridge, fill, chorus, and so on, drag that into your project, and then import that into your drum machine. So I think using these MIDI loop libraries is a really fun way to get more out of your drum machine than just what you're capable of programming. I mean, we all like to think we're good drum machine programmers, but there are quite a few interesting loop libraries out there that are worth trying out on your drum machine. If you know of any other software, by the way, that lets you search through loops like this, please leave a comment below. A link to a free trial download of EZdrummer below as well. So hopefully you found a nice way to get a lot more out of your drum machine. If you like these sort of shenanigans and want more, they're all listed in my book, available to people who support this channel on Patreon. And if you ring the bell after you subscribe, there's a good chance you won't miss the next video. Please hit like if this was useful. Feel free to ask me any questions in the comments section below, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.